How do you choose a PhD supervisor? What are the things you need to look out for? And how can you maximize the experience of doing a PhD? Since when you make a decision to do a PhD, you have very little experience in the world of academia, these questions can cause real headache. Which is why this video offers some basic guidance on how to pick the right supervisor if you're thinking of doing a PhD. If this is something you're interested in, keep watching. But before doing that, please remember to hit the subscribe and like buttons to help the channel and to be notified when new videos come online. Doing a PhD is a serious step that's going to have a major impact on your whole life and career. A PhD degree is going to become a core part of your identity that is going to differentiate you from most people and align you with a few selected ones. On the most basic level, it's the rite of initiation into a life spent in academia. This is what enables you to teach and do research for the rest of your life. So the decision to continue studying is going to directly affect your life for the next few years and also for the following decades. But PhD programs are not easy. Typically, they take stamina, determination, and hard work. And for doing a PhD, you need a supervisor who will act as your guide while navigating through the circles of academia and scholarship. And she will play a major role in shaping the direction in which you're going to develop intellectually and academically. The problem is when you're starting a PhD, you have no idea how to choose a supervisor. You're typically the first person in your extended family to do a PhD, and so any advice you may receive from well-meaning family members is more like a guess that tries to apply common sense to a very specific situation. So how do you choose a supervisor? What are the things you need to look out for? Having myself completed a PhD course and having been a supervisor for quite a few years, I can think of the following 5 points you need to take into consideration. Number 1 is pick a supervisor whose area of research aligns with yours. Since you want to rise to the top of an area of research, you need someone who can help you with that. You need someone who has extensive knowledge of that area and the entire field around it, who knows which books and articles you should read and what the intellectual trends current in that field are. It is really simple. If you're training to be a basketball player, you need to study with a basketball coach rather than a volleyball coach, no matter how good that coach may be. And this is also how university departments assess your application. They want to see evidence that you're a good fit for the supervisor, but also for the whole department. Usually this means that you choose someone whose research you admire, whose books and articles you have read and found useful, not just in terms of factual knowledge, but also how they approach the subject and the type of methodology they use. Point number 2 is supervisor over university. I really think that you should always prioritize the supervisor over the university. Doing it the other way around and picking a university over a supervisor is a common mistake on the part of aspiring graduate students. They think that they want a degree from a top university, which is of course reasonable and is not a bad idea, but it's going to create some friction on the long run. And by long run, I mean those 4, 5, 6, 7 years a PhD degree takes. And I think that the right supervisor should be a priority, and at which university she is should only be a secondary concern. Getting a PhD is about learning the tricks of the trade, about becoming an expert in a particular field of scholarship and rising to the forefront of the current state of research. And for this, you need someone who is already at the cutting edge of research, who has enough standing in the field to be able to guide you and raise your level of expertise to the level required in that field. So you really want to be trained by the best experts if possible. Just as importantly, you want to be in a competitive position when you finish your degree and move on to the job market. And for this, you need someone who is herself at the forefront of the field, whose letters of recommendation will open doors for you when you apply for jobs. Point number 3 is meet face to face. You should always meet your prospective supervisor face to face. Preferably, you would be able to do this in person, but if not, you can use Zoom or Skype or any other similar app. When you submit your application, your prospective supervisor may ask you for an interview, which is of course a source of anxiety for many students because they feel that they're going to be assessed. In a sense, this is of course true, But it also works the other way around, because it's also your opportunity to meet your prospective supervisor face to face and see what she is like. And so even though you are the one being interviewed, in a sense, you're also interviewing your supervisor. So as you talk to this person, she will tell you her expectations and criteria, and you may very well decide that you don't actually want to study with this person because you don't really feel comfortable with her. Ideally, you should do this meeting before you submit your application. Get in touch with your prospective supervisor by email, explain that you're thinking of applying, and ask to have a chat with her face to face. And this way, you can make a decision whether you want to continue with your application before you apply. And if you decide that the two of you are not a good fit, then you have saved the application fee. But more importantly, you may have avoided the painful experience of being rejected. Point number 4, talk to your supervisor's students. By this, I mean you should, if possible, talk to your supervisor's current students, but also those that have already graduated. They can provide a lot of useful insider information and will likely be able to tell you if there are any potential problems with the supervisor, or give you insights what your day-to-day life might be if you end up studying with that professor. But be prepared to read between the lines, because some of the students, even if they are unhappy, might not be comfortable to criticize their supervisor directly, especially to a stranger. But they might still give you hints in how they phrase certain things, so pay attention. In any case, talking to other students is an extremely useful way of learning about a supervisor, and this also means that you get to know the students with whom you may be studying for the next few years. And point number 5 is be flexible. The decision to study with someone is not only yours, it's also theirs. You may pick someone, but she also needs to agree to teach you. And then the degree committee and the department needs to agree to that too, which may not always happen, and the reasons may be many. It's not always about you not being good enough, because it's possible that your supervisor has too many students already, or that he may be on a research leave that year, or something unexpected comes up and then she decides not to take on new students. But it's also possible that even though your application is accepted by your supervisor and the department, you will not meet the university's general requirements in some other area, and that means that you will not be able to begin the program. So be flexible and be prepared to choose another supervisor at another university. There are many paths to the same destination, especially if the destination itself is not very certain, and so you never really know where you're going to end up. Learning is a process of exploration, and it's not possible to predict your future career path. You will find new directions, new interests, and you should always be flexible enough to embrace these, because they may lead you to areas you did not even consider. And point number 6 is don't worry. Finally, I wanted to make the point that there's no reason to overthink this process and worry too much about making the wrong decision. Ultimately, doing a PhD and writing a dissertation is something you do, and for a significant percentage of time, you sit alone at your desk or in the library, so it is really up to you what you do and how you arrive at your destination. Yes, the supervisor is a major part in this process, and can be a major disruption if things go wrong. But nobody's experience is perfect, and you should trust yourself that you can rise to the challenges and complete your PhD even if things get difficult. It is true that things don't always work out as planned, and I have heard some pretty distressing PhD stories, but if you have done your homework and paid attention to the above points, you have greatly reduced the chances of anything bad happening. And ultimately, you need to have faith that things will work out for you. Otherwise, you will not be able to move ahead. Okay, these points are my advice on how to choose a PhD advisor. I would of course be interested in hearing your experience, so if you can think of other points, please put them in a comment section below. Hope this was useful. Thank you for watching and see you next time.